Okay, welcome back to Fright Flicks. This is Mike. I'm going to be flying solo here on this one. This is the American Horror Story Hotel Season 5 review of sorts. We'll get to that in a little bit. Funny enough, I just noticed this right before I started. This is the very first thing for Fright Flicks that I've recorded all by myself. We've recorded stuff and I've edited it together, but this is the first thing that is solely Mike. Weird feeling. I should have Nate somewhere around to tell me to stop rambling and these kind of things, but he's not around, so hopefully I will cut the ramblings down to a minimum. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk about right off the top was last episode, me and Nate were together and we were talking about the first episode, and it's interesting that, I didn't really get too much negative feedback, anything really like that. And what's ironic is that it wasn't a negative review. It was I gave it 8 out of 10, which it was a strange review. I mean, go back, listen to that one, and you'll see what I'm talking about. It was a little bit strange, me giving it the 8. Basically, one of our new favorite followers, Wario Van Peebles, awesome name. If you don't know who Mario Van Peebles is, don't get that reference. Feel sorry for you. Anyway, Wario, see, there you go. Very cool guy. He points out the fact that it's kind of what Fright Flicks is based on in a way, that why bother reviewing something if you're just going to be negative or you're just going to make fun of it, that kind of thing. Like when we first started out, that was something that we were very conscious of, and we kept saying we don't want to just hate on stuff, make fun, nerd rage, that kind of stuff. There's too much of that on the internet. Problem is if you want to go ahead and review something for people, and we try and just give you, two perspectives on stuff with the, extra bits of knowledge we have from school and all that stuff. But mostly it's due to reviews, so we want to be truthful about everything. The point of bringing that up is I just want to say that we always try and look for the positive in stuff, and there is a lot of positives to be found in American Horror Story. Maybe not overall. Again, we'll get to that at the very end. But there's still a lot of positives. And so what this is going to be is give or take half review, half coffee talk. If you listen to our Scream Killer Theories or our new series, Scream Queens Killer Theories, make sure you listen to both of those. I do little segments where I'm just like, coffee talk, discuss amongst yourselves, just give you some things to think about. And I'll get into that a little bit after I get into the episode specifics, but there are some things that I want to talk about. Try not to ramble, like I said, but it's broader than just American Horror Story. But getting into episode specifics, here we go. We are doing episode 2. This episode was called Chutes and Ladders. It was directed by Brad Buchner, I think is how you say his name. I'm terrible with names. You might know him. He is very well known in the American Horror Story world. He's directed multiple episodes of every single season. This is his first one of this season, and he gets my love, truthfully, because I just looked him up, and he directed Scream Queens Episode 4, Haunted Houses, which pretty much is my favorite episode of Scream Queens that has come out yet. Chainsaw was pretty good, which was Episode 3, but Episode 4, I liked a lot. So when I found out it was him, I was like, okay, well, we'll see how this episode goes. Again, more on that later. This episode was written by Tim Meanier, I guess. Again, terrible with names. He wrote for The X-Files, then he became kind of a Joss Whedon guy. Wrote for Angel, Firefly, Dollhouse, and of course has written multiple episodes for every season of American Horror Story also. But what's really cool about him and what really excited me about him is he wrote for Lois and Clark, The Adventures of Superman, which if you guys don't know that show, it's a very cheesy, very silly, probably terrible show from the mid-90s, I think. But I was just at that age. Superman was awesome. That was my thing. So when I saw he wrote this, I was like, yes. So I had every reason to give this episode maybe a little bit more love than I gave the last episode. So one thing I wanted to point out is just some stuff that I've noticed going around researching this season. One, and I find this one very interesting, is that Ryan Murphy will return to this season to direct episode 4. Now, that's interesting because Ryan Murphy has never directed more than one episode in a season of American Horror Story. Thought it was something of interest, so I went and looked it up, and he said that the script for episode 4 was just so damn good that he could not hand it over to anyone else. So I said I was sticking around for 3 episodes, give or take, see if this is the kind of show for me if I want to do this. And hearing that, I'm sorry, I'm stuck in here until 4 now. I've got to see what Ryan Murphy calls a script that he could not just let go. Now, I mean, granted, that might be some kind of marketing, but I mean, it was kind of hidden. So, anyway, I tend to believe it. And the other thing that I tend to believe about it is that this is going to be 13 episodes like the other seasons. Again, I assume, I'm pretty sure I checked up on that, 13 episodes. So, he is going to come in not at the middle, which would be give or take 6, but, he's coming in kind of towards the middle. And I have this whole theory, which is one of the reasons I really want to stick around for this season, is that this is the season that the whole show will in a way reinvent itself, or more to the point will kind of backtrack and start bringing in all the previous seasons, and we'll see that there's this bigger, scarier story going on that involves the 5 stories we have thus far and will propel the next however many seasons. That's what I'm really thinking is going to happen. I'm hoping happens. And that will probably happen somewhere around the middle, but it very well could happen in episode 4. That brings me to another point where I was looking through the credits. If you guys listen to our Killer Theory stuff again, I'm big on checking up on credits, things like that. Found some interesting stuff. One, we have a character coming up, Jeffrey Dahmer. Yes, that should be very interesting. Somehow, some way, but I guess this show kind of does time travel, obviously. Yeah, that's true. Jeffrey Dahmer will be coming in. Not only will Jeffrey Dahmer become a character, but so will Aileen Woodrose. Don't know how to say her name either, but you know her from Charlize Theron won an Oscar for playing her in Monster back in mid to late 2000s. And the Aileen Woodrose character is going to be played by Lily Rabe, which, as we all know from American Horror Story, she is one of the regulars who always pops up. So it could be assumed that maybe Aileen has a bigger role, like she'll be pretty reoccurring, which is kind of a strange thing. As far as I know, they've touched on real life stuff, but I don't think they've had a recurring in the mix character that was totally based on someone we all know really existed. Another thing that's cool, and I don't really know if this can be confirmed, IMDb will screw you over quick, is it has Emma Roberts. Or maybe it was Wikipedia. It had Emma Roberts coming back this season, which, she could play a new character. I'll take any Emma Roberts I can get. I don't care. So she could be playing a new character, of course, or she could be playing her character from Coven, or she could be playing her character reincarnated, or again, time doesn't mean anything in this season, from Freak Show. However, what I think would be really cool, and is totally not going to happen, but still maybe just saying it out loud here, will magic the universe into making it happen. How cool would it be if Chanel showed up? I don't know. I think that would be fucking badass. I would be very excited about that. And just one more thing before we get episode specific is this season is based on basically a true story. There's a book out there based, again, on this true story that's called The Devil in the White City. Supposedly, I believe it's Martin Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio are going to be making the movie version of it. It's pretty much credited to be the first serial killer in America. If I'm not getting all of this stuff wrong, no, I'm not getting that wrong. So yeah, season 5 is based on an actual hotel that was built by H.H. Holmes in Chicago right before the World's Fair in the 1800s. I'm reading from Wikipedia. That's why it maybe sounds a little bit strange. But anyway, so Holmes built this hotel with the purpose of murder. Bom, bom, bom. It contained trapdoors, chutes and ladders. There you go. Get it? And hidden passages. Every good building has hidden passages. It was later to be known as Murder Castle. So they call it hotel because, I guess, to have Murder House and then Murder Castle. Oh, plus people would think it was actually taking place in a castle. That's season 6 for you guys right there. Actually, real quick too, I bet you season 6 is American Horror Story Prison. That's just a theory that I have. If not, Castle. Called it. Okay, so now we're going to get episode specific. The first thing I had to write down was that I don't know if I just didn't notice it last time or just didn't mention it, but this feels so like Seven, the TV series, like the Brad Pitt, David Fincher, 1995 movie Seven. There is a lot in here that reminded me of Seven. Basically, you remember that part where not sloth, lust. Remember that? If you haven't seen Seven, again, I feel sorry for you. Watch Seven. Stop listening to this. Don't watch American Horror Story, another episode. Go watch Seven. Anyway, there's a scene in Seven where a prostitute gets killed. That's not ruining anything for anyone who hasn't seen it. But if you watch that scene, that totally is what had to have inspired the production design, the cinematography, a lot of stuff about this particular season. So anyway, I'm kind of all for that. I'll praise that stuff again a little bit more later, but I'm kind of getting into the tune of this season, other than that fashion show, but I'll talk about that a little bit later. So the episode starts with Sarah Paulson, who, interestingly enough, I don't think it's been said yet, but she's credited as Hypodermic Sally. That's her character name. Whatever. They're very clever. Anyway, so she's now taking the junkie who got drill fucked into that nasty mattress that the other thing had crawled up out of, so it can only be assumed that the other thing that crawled out was put in there, sewed in there by Sarah Paulson, Hypodermic Sally, as it were. And then it actually does this really cool, like David Fincher through the air ducts thing. Anyway, and we get to the creepy ass, like Children of the Corn kids, or Village of the Damned, actually, is more apt. And they are drinking the blood of the girl from the very first scene of the very first episode. And while that's not inherently really anything to celebrate, it leads to something that I actually thought was pretty interesting. And again, I don't think I really talked bad about the show the last time, but it's something that I mentioned that's kind of like, they have too much imagination as writers. Like, they hit on so many good ideas, but there's too many of them. This is another one, but it still is a really cool idea that the kids drink the blood of the girl. Kathy Bates then draws their blood and feeds their blood to, the Countess, played by Lady Gaga, of course. Anyway, and I just think that that's an interesting idea, that the most high-class vampires don't, like, rip people open, unless they want to, and drink blood. And it's like, how do you create a hierarchy and I'm so much classier than this other vampire because I have my blood filtered through innocence, which that is a fucking weird and fucking creepy idea. And I like that a lot. Okay, and then we move into Chloe Salvini, who plays Wes Bentley's wife. And she's a pediatrician, door-to-door, home-to-home pediatrician. Anyway, so she's dealing with this little kid who has the measles. And the entire episode stops to give us somebody's view that all your children should be getting vaccinations. Now, I'm not a big whatever one way or the other, and even if I was, I wouldn't go into it here. But did anybody else think that that scene was a little bit out of place, a little bit strange? Maybe it works into something later, but really it just kind of felt, and thinking about it, talking about it out loud, maybe there's some kind of like analogy to be made somewhere, but I don't care, for one. And two, I know I'm not alone in saying, dude, keep your politics to yourself. Anyway, so then we get the scene which pretty much is where I got the title for this video and what I'm going to be calling this episode, not Chutes and Ladders, what it's officially called. I'm going to start calling it The Shining, but with fucking in it. Like a lot of fucking. That's the show's new tagline altogether. Because in this scene, Wes Bentley goes into a bathroom that looks damn near like the exact bathroom, at least the tub stuff part of the bathroom from The Shining from 237. He pulls the thing aside, and the people behind the curtain, the ghosts behind the curtain, look like the chick who comes up out of the tub, the old version of her, in The Shining. Only difference is they are going at it. And that's what this show basically is. It's all of the classic gothic, shining, old school, grand grignole horror that we all know from Dawn of Time, just mixed with the modern sensibility of let's push the envelope of sex, gore, drugs, all that kind of stuff. Again, sounds like I'm hating, but shock value kind of only takes you so far. Anyway, I'm going to stop hating on it. There's other things to talk about. One thing is then Wes Bentley goes to a, well, no, he, like The Shining, goes to the bar, and Sarah Paulson starts talking to him about what was your last drunk. And he tells this actually pretty creepy story about a guy who supposedly murdered his kids, poisoned them, and then shot himself. Well, Wes Bentley, being the uber detective that he is, quickly realizes that the guy had a generator to keep the lights on. It ran out of gas somehow, carbon monoxide. All of his family died. He came home and shot himself. So things aren't always what they appear is the point of that scene. But at the beginning of that scene, pretty much, somebody asked him, what happens to a man that makes him murder his own kids? Now, I hope the show's not going this way because, come on, that's too obvious. I mean, we can all agree that's way too obvious that this is where it's going, right? So, I am making the claim, and I am going to give this series the benefit of the doubt and say that is not where this is going. Again, a reference to Seven, the police station in this episode is the library that Morgan Freeman goes to in Seven. And then that brings me to one of the things that, again, trying to be positive, but I do not like about this show, and this is totally personal, is we have to sit through a fashion show, like a legitimate fashion show. Like the guy who bought the hotel in the last episode is a fashion designer, and there's a big fashion element in this series so far. That wasn't hidden by any means, but we literally get a fashion show in the middle of this scary, haunted, blah, 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 blah hotel. No, everyone just decides to stop and have the most unscary thing ever happen. There's nothing less scary than a fucking fashion show. Anyway, this episode gives us one of our first recurring characters that we haven't seen yet. He was in season 4, played Dandy. Actually, I don't even remember what his name is. He was nominated for an Emmy, so I probably should know his name. I should have looked that up. But anyway, he's back, and now he's playing a coke-addicted, of course, coke-addicted fashion model. That sums up every character on this show, too, doesn't it? Anyway, so he's crazy, again, and either tries to fight people and kissing and this, that, the other, and then goes so far as to say, I don't want to ever be a model again, and slices his own face open. But then something really cool happened, is my boy, Evan Peters, who I loved from season 1. He played, damn, I don't even remember his name, but he was, he was the rubber man, basically. Season 1, he was Lobster Boy. In season 4, he showed up in season 3. He's fucking Quicksilver. He was in Kick-Ass. I like this guy a lot. I'm glad he's here. And it doesn't look like he's just here for a cameo type thing. It looks like he's basically going to be the 3rd or 4th main character. And he's the guy who's playing. And I can't remember if the episode calls him H.H. Holmes or if it really ever even referenced him by name. But that's definitely who he's supposed to be. Very, very cool. I'm excited he's in here. That guy always brings the stuff. So if we can get into more stuff with him, Kathy Bates, and possibly Chloe Savini. I don't really know how she fits in yet, but I don't know. She just has screen presence. There's something about her that I like. But anyway, so overall, this episode, I would say, was better than the first episode. I'm just maybe getting a little bit more used to it. I'm really trying to be positive about it. And I'm definitely sticking around because I want to see that episode 4. And then by watching 4, I'll want to stick to at least halfway through. And then I'll probably be wrapped up in it. So you're going to get a whole season worth of reviews from this asshole about this show. So before I get to my overall rating, which again is going to be surprisingly high, I want to point out the fact that, and this might be a little rant, but I'm going to try and wrap it up really quick, is that we judge things like no matter how good looking something is, that does not matter to anyone in the world. If it's TV, if it's movies, it doesn't matter if it has the absolute best production design, costumes, cinematography, editing. None of that matters if the story and the characters aren't good. So everything comes down to the writer. I actually kind of want to use this show until the writers kind of win me over to point that out. This will be, again, I'll do reviews and I'll make this into something that I never really get to hear in reviews. Reviews always talk about the showrunners, the writers, the directors, and the actors. Let's start talking about and call out by name the people who are doing an arguably 10 out of 10 perfect job for what they are doing, and this show is amazing on a technical level. We're going to call them out. Go on social media, friend them, tweet them, and tell them how much you liked everything. The MVPs we do for Scream Queens always tend to be actors. I'm going to send MVP stuff to the behind the scenes people. I would like if you guys did that too. I'm not trying to tell you to do it, but I think that that would be the thing to learn from this series, is that the people behind the scenes need to maybe start getting a little bit more credit in reviews. Remember these names. The music is done by Mac Quayle, M-A-C Quayle. Mac Quayle. This music, and if he's, I should have researched again, but if he's done the music for the other seasons, this guy is good, but I really fucking love the music of this season. The art direction is done by Denise Hudson, and the very first thing anyone will ever notice about this show is how fucking amazing the art direction of this is. It's just kind of a shame that if people don't like the characters in the story, they just totally dismiss something because, oh my god, watch this with the sound off then, if you're not into this show or something, guys, because it needs to be celebrated. And then set decoration is by Ellen Brill. Very good set decoration. She's not necessarily the props person, but there's just so much detail, and it's all so perfect to the tone of different rooms and different hallways, different sections. Fucking great. The makeup department, special effects, come on. We cannot argue about how fucking great these special effects have been. Let alone the prosthetics, like that creature who came out of the mattress, is so good. Their effects are never cheesy. They're never, you can see the strings. They don't tend to use too much CGI, if ever. The makeup department special effects artist James McKinnon needs to be celebrated too. These are people who are all doing 10 out of 10 jobs and don't ever get the love because too many people are too busy talking about what Lady Gaga wore this episode. That is sadly 100% true. And we're changing the world here, guys, on Frightflix. We're not changing the world, but I think that that's more what my reviews are going to be. They're going to be reviews and coffee talk about the technical behind the scenes aspects of this show, which are absolutely top notch. So again, I'm going to give this episode an 8 out of 10. This episode is visually beautiful. The sound editing, the dialogue editing, the ambient noises that they use are all great in creating this environment that just makes your skin crawl, that it just elevates everything in every moment of it. And no one could debate that it's not fucking as good as these people can do. And TV is a very condensed schedule, very limited budgets. Most episodes are shot in 8 days, and they are just killing it. So this episode also gets an 8 out of 10. The episodes will only go up to 9 and 10 if the writing starts getting better, which I have fingers crossed and I'm hopeful, and I'm pretty much getting high expectations for this episode 4 where Ryan Murphy's going to return. That episode should be the one that kicks everyone's ass. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to episode 3 to try and get hints about what happens in 4. I hope you guys join me for that review. I hope you guys like this one. Remember to like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, both at Frightflix with a CKS, Check on all of our other stuff. We're going to be putting up more Scream Queens Killer Theories this coming Thursday. We just put one up. What is it? I don't even know what day it is. It's Friday. So we put one up yesterday. Make sure you check that one out. Episode 5. If you like Ryan Murphy and you like this series, I really think if you give it a chance and at least get to episode 3 of Scream Queens, you'll really like it. So I got to take my own advice and get to episode 3 of this, right? See? Look at me being condescending right there. Contradicting myself right there. Sticking around till episode 3, then 4. Let's do this. Let's enjoy this. This is some good stuff in here. American Horror Story, Season 5, Hotel, Episode 2, Chutes and Ladders, or, again, as I like to call it, The Shining, but with tons more fucking. I'll see you next time, guys. This was Mike, and this was Fright Flicks. And I will see you next week for another episode of American Horror Story Hotel. Later on, guys.